Hi guys, Jay here from Just Technics. Bit of a special video for you today. I'm comparing two very random turntables you wouldn't even think about really reviewing, let's be honest, together at least. We've got a GR, a SL-1210GR Technics turntable, which was their creme de la creme back in 2016 when they re-released the Technics 1210-1200 brand. The Daddy, as some people have been calling it, compared to a dual belt drive turntable, which has cost me £89. Now, does the dual turntable compare at all to a Technics? Can you scratch on the £89 turntable? Can you mix on it? And what's it like when compared to the GR? In this video, I'm going to be going through both turntables to give you a brief run through of the Technics and the dual. I'm going to be demonstrating what mixing is like on both of these turntables from one to the other, giving my honest opinion on which one actually performs better for a DJ and which one is better for scratching. Well, actually, before I go into any of this, let's just talk about the dual turntable, okay? So, as you probably all know, if you're in the UK and you've got a Lidl right by you, you go in there to go and get your veg, go and get your cheap chocolate or whatever you're going to do do your shop. You always know when you walk down those middle aisles, you probably go in there, got to go in there and get a sack of potatoes and walk out with a screwdriver set or cable ties or something random that you would not expect to find within your supermarket. That's exactly what happened with this turntable. So, 89 quid, it's cheap. It's very, very cheap. And I could go as far as saying that if I was a beginner DJ and I didn't have much budget, had a cheap banged up mixer, even like my UMX mixer here, it's a classic, but it does the job for what I need it to do. But get them for 50 quid, 100 quid if you're lucky now on eBay. If I didn't have much of a budget, 89 quid each, I would be absolutely over the moon with these. To put this into perspective, when you buy, or when you first started out, like a lot of you guys probably would have done, if you're following my channel and it's predominantly for Technics turntables, you probably started off on belt drive turntables, worked your way up onto the cheaper end of the direct drive market, and then decided to jump straight headfirst into a pair of 1210s once you probably could afford them, like everyone else can. I did exactly the same. But with belt drive turntables, as a lot of us know when we started out on them, the platters are extremely wobbly. So trying to cue records on them were a nightmare. Start and stop speeds were horrific, so you had to be incredibly light-handed to do just about anything on these turntables because they're belt driven and they're cheap. Now this turntable, to be fair, knocks every belt drive deck, even some of the cheaper direct drive turntables that I used to use in the past, completely out of the water, okay? There's lots of features on this thing which you would be pretty surprised to find on a turntable of such a price point. So yes, it's belt drive, okay? That's the one thing that's going to be, people are probably going to be going, oh, why would you compare them, Jay? But once I've done this, you'll see. So yes, it's light as a feather, okay? You can see it, it's hardly any effort lifting the thing up. The GR, on the other hand, is a heavy beast. When compared to an original Technics, they are very heavy as well. So that's a good thing working in its favour. But 89 quid, put it in its price bracket, you've got line and phono switchable output. So if your DJ mixer has got, say for an example, you've got, like this one here for example, you've got 3 separate phono inputs and individual line inputs. So I could quite easily connect up 3 turntables to this as well as CDJs, whatever I want, to the back. But people that have got, say for an example, another Pioneer mixer, most of them only really come with 2 phono inputs on the top. So if you want to add a third turntable to your system, either for vinyl ripping or just something for a bit of a mess around as a third deck, you can't connect anything up unless it has a line switchable output on the back, or you connect a phono to line converter. So that's the only way of doing it. This thing has line and phono switchable. So I've got this connected at the moment to a line input and it's clear as a whistle. So we've got this connected to a line. So for 89 quid already, line output and phono, big win. No ground cable needed, brilliant, it's got a preamp already built into the unit, as it would. You've got USB output on the back as well, so you can rip tracks to your computer. So if you want to buy a cheap turntable and don't want to mess around with plugging in a mixer with your turntable, going through Audacity or Ableton or any other software that you're using predominantly just to record audio, you can skip all of that and go straight through USB, needle on, push play for your, well, it's obviously for your software of choice, and it will work. And if you get a good quality cartridge and stylus, you're well away. So that's a big plus in just about anybody's book, I think, if you're looking to rip vinyl. So already, there's a lot of pros over the cons. So con number one, it's light as a feather. It's a cheap turntable. What do you expect? Two, it's belt drive. Yes, to be fair though, for what I'm going to use it for, and what most of you will use it for out here, if you decided to use it for a budget pair of turntables to start off with, you'll be fine. And to rip vinyl, it doesn't matter about it being belt drive. The platter, guys, you can see this on the camera because it's in wide berth anyway. You can see, look, you got a little wobble, but I'm not having to just lightly push it to really get it to go down. You've really got to push it to get it to move. And a lot of these older belt drive turntables had plastic platters and they were wobbly as anything. This isn't like that. You've got plus or minus 10% pitch on this as well, not plus or minus 8 like a Technics has got, so you've got a little bit more room there, which it doesn't sound like much really, but it does if you've got slightly slower tracks that you want to speed up. That is quite helpful. 33 and 45 speed selection, which unfortunately the buttons are directly underneath the pitch slider unit, so if you're resting your hand over the bottom area of the turntable, that might be a little bit annoying for you, but they're not very easy to click down and you soon get used to them being there. The whole layout of the deck itself looks like any other generic belt drive DJ turntable that was released probably from the early 90s to 2000. They've all copied the Technics layout to some extent, with the start and stop button being very similar, the on-off switch being practically identical. You've got a black strobe tower, and instead of the 33 and 45 speed selections being on the left-hand side of the deck, there isn't really a great deal of difference in the layouts. Turntables are turntables at the end of the day. Tone arms all look the same really. The arm assembly looks very similar to something off of an old Citronic or an old Newmark, like a TT 1510 or a 1520, maybe even the 1700. So it is light and the clip's not exactly very good. But let's talk some more pros about this. So one thing you do get with this turntable from new is two things. One is a dust cover. The dust cover slots in between the sockets that are already on here with the hinges pre-built in, and it fits over the turntable. There's no point in me showing you this really, because it's only just a generic dust cover that slots over the top. And for people that are going to be commenting, asking, oh that's good, do they fit on Technics? They won't go into the sockets of the Technics or the hinges because they're a completely different design, but they will slide on top. So you could, in theory, buy a couple of these decks, save yourself a fortune on dust covers and just buy them for the dust covers and sit them on top of your turntable and put stickers over the badge or whatever you want to do. I may even make my own badges, we'll see at some point. But you've got a dust cover for free. That's brilliant, so you can use it on your Technics or whatever you want to do. You've also got an Audio Technica cartridge stylus and a head shell as well included, as well as the basic RCA cables and molded connector for the power plug. So let's be realistic here, the Audio Technica cartridge and stylus, you're probably going to be looking for that 30 quid, head shell 6 quid, so you've nearly saved £40 just on that alone, head shell, cartridge and stylus. And if you think you're paying £89 for the turntable, and that's included, you're only really paying 40 quid really for the turntable. Then you've got the dust cover that if you're going to buy it to use it on the Technics just to sit on top, even better. So this really pays for itself. Okay, so there are a lot of good points about this for a budget beginner deck. So what's it like to DJ on? Like any budget turntable, especially a belt drive, it's not heavy-handedness that's going to win the race with this. You can't do what you do on an old pair of Technics where you can touch the platter to stop it. You've got to be a bit more light-handed. But you can pull a mix off on it. And if I'm completely honest, between the GR, these two turntables, being honest, the belt drive deck for 89 quid does a better job for mixing than the GR does with its digitally controlled pitch. So this is obviously analog, this is digitally controlled. So the first thing I'm going to show you is mixing on this. Now I'm going to try and do this backwards instead of me walking around and doing this and pulling the workbench out forward. I'm going to do this exactly as it is here so you can actually see what this is like. So let's try for an example, let's cue up a track on the GR. I've got one speaker already connected here anyway, so you can hear it your end. It may come out of one speaker, I'm not too sure with my GoPro. This is the first proper test with my GoPro, but you'll see now. So let's try this out. Hopefully it's not too loud. I don't want it to be too, because I think it'll pick up quite easily on here. I'm going to be getting a microphone input for this, so don't worry too much guys if it is too loud. Right, so that's that track queued up and going for it. Let's turn the volume down slightly on this, start it up. Obviously, I'm going to turn the gain down on the Technics because it is a louder turntable, louder pickup, and also has an autophon included, so it is much louder. So about a quarter of the way down on the actual mixer itself. There we go. It stays locked. And that's an 89 quid deck. I mean, that's, you gotta admit, impressive. You get the idea. So that's the other thing as well, the start and stop is quite slow. So yeah, you can pull off a mix on an £89 Lidl turntable. It holds really well. Once you get it where you need it, you might have to have a little bit of a touch tinker here and there just to speed it up. The best advice I give for people that are starting out, especially on a belt drive turntable, obviously you want to try and avoid touching the platter as much as you can. But what I tend to do is just lightly brush your finger on the top when you're speeding it up, because it doesn't need much really to get it going, because they are quite light, okay? But when you slow the track down, you've only got to just not even touch, really just brush ever so slightly. So the best advice is to get your track slightly faster and keep slowing it until you get it to the point. Everyone's got their own methods to mix with, but I've always been very much it's pitch ride, so you move the pitch to where you want it to, then keep making minor adjustments by either touching your record or slowing down the platter. But you can get away with that quite well on a belt drive deck, and you've just seen that on here. Now, the GR. This is when it gets a bit more interesting. So this turntable in general is a very nice looking turntable. I think it's much better in comparison to the Mark 7. Heavier unit. I always said since day one of reviewing the Mark 7 that the Mark 7 was basically, I'd class it as a poor man's GR. Okay, now I know it's a silly thing to say because the GR is 1200 odd quid and the Mark 7 is what, £800, £900. So there's a slight difference between them. They're both very expensive for what they are. I still don't think they compare to the original Mark 2s, Mark 5 and 3Ds. If you're abroad, the MK3D, the MK3. I still don't think they are a good comparison to that. But each to their own. If you want a brand new Technics, there's not much really about other than the GR and the Mark 7. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to reverse these records over, and I'm going to put, as you can see, switch these over like this. We'll try and do this the other way around. I'm going to reset the pitch, and we'll try and mix the other way around on this and see what difference it will be. I've got a very bad feeling that this is going to still be quite loud, but that should do it. Startup times on these as well. So this is on the highest startup point. You can adjust the torque, the brake, all different settings on this turntable. But I will tell you now, even on the fastest startup and brake, it's still very slow and it's very, very strange. So like now, for example, hit start and stop. There it is, and stop. Still going. Belt drive turntable, hit it. Starts faster than the GR. Obviously it's going to slow down slower because it is a belt drive unit, but it starts faster. A cheap turntable starts faster than a 1200 turntable, £1,200 turntable. So let's try this the other way around. We'll reset the pitch control. That's a faster record. We shall start this at, let's say +4. Let's see where we get on from this. Hopefully again the audio quality is still okay. I'm doing this reversed, bearing in mind, so it's not the easiest thing to demonstrate. A bit too fast. Personally, I hate that. You saw what you could see. That is very hard work to just get anything to line up. That, when you saw me queue up, straight away. Get about it just about there, and in fact I'll do it the other way around it so you can actually see this. It isn't just me saying it for the hell of it. We'll leave that sped up fast. Get this one here queued in again. This proves the point. Really? I hope you can all hear that. That is easy to mix with the GR. To prove this even more, I'm going to do it again so you guys can see I'm not just deliberately faking this, because that's what a lot of people probably would think. That is horrible. So honestly, mixing, that is better than that. So my honest opinion to conclude with mixing, an £89 belt drive budget beginner's turntable from Lidl, in my honest opinion, is better to mix with than a £1,200 turntable from Technics. The Technics 1210GR, lovely looking turntable. Sounds great actually, it really does. But there's no comparison. You spend £100 on a turntable and you can mix easier than on a £1,200 one. It's a no-brainer. You are buying because of the make. Simple as that. You're buying because of the name. Obviously I wouldn't be going into shopping, my first point of choice would be, oh my god, I must have a dual turntable. No, it would always be the Technics, being a Technics junkie. But no, not impressed. Not impressed at all with the GR on it anyway. Right, so we know you can scratch on a GR. Let's be realistic here. It's the same principle as a 1200 and 1210 of all the other models in terms of the way the torque is. You can definitely scratch on it. So should we try and scratch now on the £89 turntable and see just how this is going to come across. Now, this is the first time I've done this. In fact, we'll do it without music. Right, you should still be able to see the general gist of my hands moving on the camera. I'm deliberately doing this so I'm not going to get in the way. Right, here we go. Let's hit start on the other one, so you can scratch on it. That's laughable. That is actually laughable, guys. So again, you've just seen that. Nothing spectacular. It's a belt drive turntable, but it did work. If you get yourself a good quality cartridge and stylus, i.e. the Autophon, pop it on there. Ironically, it's probably going to cost you the same amount of money buying the cartridge as it actually will do buying the turntable. That's the only downside to doing this. You can use the Audio Technica like you've just seen me do. I mean, I would probably go around either putting something on top of it to weigh it down a little bit, making sure the weight is all the way in will be a good start. As long as it doesn't press up against your record, you're fine. More weight the better. And your skate on zero, so the arm is freely tracking. So with any turntable, if you're going to be scratching, I know some people like to set the anti-skate to the same as what they're setting for the weight, but it's a cheap deck, and as long as it tracks, I don't think we're really that bothered, are we? So yes, this deck does perform very, very well. I think it performs better in terms of performance for DJ use than a £1,200 GR does. And the proof really is in the pudding. You've just seen me try and mix between the dual turntable and the Technics turntable. The Technics is a massive fail in terms of the digitally controlled pitch. It's very hard work to keep it in the mix, whereas the £89 turntable, it just stays there, the odd little touch here and there, but it is what it is. It's an analog turntable, it's nice to use, it's cheap, and if you're wanting something to start out with, or you're trying to buy a third deck, or you want to buy something just for USB, so you can rip tracks to, I don't think you really can go wrong. So to summarise this, guys, Technics 1200 or Technics 1210GR, depending on whereabouts you're based, this being the 1210GR. Solid turntable, lovely sound quality, pitch control, not a big fan of. Yes, you can scratch on it, you can scratch on anything as long as you've got the right slip mat, the right stylus, and you haven't got a horrible wobbly platter, right? So, good turntable, don't really recommend it for DJing. It was never designed for that in the first place. Go for the Mark 7 if you must. So that's what I'd say about this. The £89 dual turntable from Lidl. Get yourself down there if you're after a pair of budget decks. You're not going to go wrong with it. It's a nice turntable, and in general, it does everything that I would want a turntable to do. All I want a turntable to do is mix, so beat mixing's got to be accurate, and for a belt drive deck, very, very surprising just how accurate it is. Fast start and stop time, fast start time, slow stop time, it's expected, it's belt drive. You know, and it can scratch as well. You can scratch on this deck. So really, what more do you want when you're starting out? A solid platter, good pitch control, and okay sound quality. You haven't got to buy styluses or cartridge stylus on any deck because they come included. Comes with dust covers, so you're not going to get it filthy, which is a bit of a bonus really. You can rob parts and use them on different decks. You can rob the needle, the stylus, whatever you want. Dust cover can go on top of the Technics. So it really is a win-win in that respect. And there you go. So that's my honest opinion on the dual £89 turntable and a £1,200 Technics 1210GR. What would I buy? Well, this is the tough choice, isn't it? If you're a professional, the only choice between these two, if these were your only two choices, would always be the Technics. But in this circumstance, well, if I wasn't going by brand, it was something for home use, and I want something that's going to do what I want it to do, I'm not even going to tell you what I'd go for, but it's pretty obvious from seeing what I can do with them. There we are. Any questions, guys? Pop them in the comments below. Obviously, any nasty comments will be removed, will be blocked from the page, so please refrain from doing that. It's a realistic video. Look, under 100 quid, guys. Under 90 quid for a turntable versus a 1200. So no smart asses, please, when you turn around and go, what do you expect? Well, I expect something for £1,200 to do a better job than one for £89. I think anybody would. And there you go. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Any questions, hit us up on justtechnics.co.uk or facebook.com/justtechnics, or put your comments below. Cheers, guys.